Austin, winter of 2021. Like time had paused, and the air itself was holding its breath. Number 148 stood hunched against the cold. An old brick building with cracked steps and rusting fire escapes. The kind of place where the rent is cheap and secrets last longer than the paint on the walls. On the third floor was apartment 6B. It belonged to a woman named Julia Kane, or at least that's what the lease said. She had moved in back in June. Alone, no family, no moving truck. Just one old suitcase with a faded sticker from Toronto peeling off the side. Nobody in the building could really describe her face. Not clearly anyway. It was like trying to remember the details of a dream hours after waking. Martha Halley in 6A, a retired schoolteacher who had lived there for 20 years, called her the quiet one. Julia never borrowed sugar, never made small talk, never offered her number, never invited anyone inside. She always wore gloves, even in the summer, and sunglasses that never seemed to come off. There was no music from her apartment, no TV, no phone calls. Just silence broken only by the occasional scrape of a chair moving across the floor in the middle of the night. Still, every month without fail her rent came in. Clean, crisp cash tucked into an envelope, or sometimes a brown paper bag, counted. Out perfectly to the dollar. Martha tried once to be neighborly. It was August. She baked a peach pie and knocked on Julia's door to offer her a slice. No answer. She left the plate on the doormat, and the next morning it was gone, but the plate was never returned. Julia wasn't rude. She wasn't unfriendly. She was invisible, a presence and yet somehow not a person. And then in early December she vanished. It happened quietly at first. No more footsteps in the hallway. No faint light under the door. No sound at all. Martha figured Julia had gone to visit family for the holidays. Until the smell started. It was faint at first, metallic like old pennies. By day 3, it grew stronger, sour, thick, clinging to the air like rot. Martha told the manager. He shrugged and said it was probably the pipes. Old copper does that in winter. But by day 5, the smell had grown unbearable, and flies had begun to gather near Julia's door. The manager finally unlocked 6B with the emergency key, thinking maybe the heater had broken or a pipe had burst. But what he found wasn't a broken appliance. The air inside was freezing. The windows were locked tight, the curtains drawn. Half-eaten oatmeal sat on the kitchen table with a spoon still resting in the bowl. 2 pills lay on the counter next to a glass of water, and a red scarf had been folded neatly on the back of a chair. And then there was the bathroom. The mirror was fogged as if someone had been standing there breathing only moments ago. The sink was still dripping, and the bathtub was stained deep red. No body, no sign of a struggle, just blood everywhere. And on the fogged mirror, written in a trembling hand, were 2 words. He knows. The manager stumbled backward, locked the door, and called the police. Martha watched from behind her curtain as cruisers arrived. Officers went in. Paramedics followed, though there was no one to save. Then came the detectives. Then the evidence techs. Their camera flashes lit up the drawn curtains in quick bursts. Muffled voices echoed down the hallway, and then one word began to spread among the neighbors like wildfire. Murder. But when police checked the records, the story took a stranger turn. There was no Julia Kane, no driver's license, no birth certificate, no phone plan, no social media, no fingerprints. In the system, the name on the lease had been verified with a prepaid debit card, and the ID shown to the manager was only a photocopy, not an original. In her apartment, there was no phone, no computer, no letters, no journals. Only a mattress on the floor, a shelf of medical textbooks, and an ashtray filled with burned scraps of paper. And the blood in the tub wasn't hers either. It belonged to a man. But the DNA didn't match anyone in the federal system. No missing persons, no hospital records, no criminal database entries. It was as if both Julia and whoever bled in that bathroom had never existed. And yet 2 weeks before she, vanished Martha had heard something through the thin wall late at night. Muffled crying and a man's low, angry voice. She couldn't make out the words. At the time she thought Julia had a visitor or was on the phone. But now she isn't so sure, because Julia Kane wasn't seen again. Not in Boston, not in Massachusetts, not anywhere. And what happened in apartment 6B is a mystery that still haunts the people who were there.